Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Paul Gordon, honored to serve as the superintendent of the Wenatchee School District. Before we get started, I'm gonna ask our panelists and guests to introduce themselves. As later on in the evening, there will be a question and answer session, but I wanted to make sure everybody knew who was in the room from our panelists. So,
hello, my name is Sergeant Brian Miller. I'm a sergeant with the Wenatchee Police Department, and my current position is I'm in charge of the Columbia River Drug Task Force.
Good evening. I'm Steve Crown. I'm the chief of police for the city of Wenatchee, and I work for this guy.
Great to see everybody tonight. Thanks for coming out. My name is Corey Callahar, and I am the Assistant Director of Learning and Teaching. Oh, and we have other people showing up. This is good.
this is perfect time, Chief.
Hi, my name is Ron Brown, Executive Director of Technology, Safety, Security. And I'm going to actually run to the back and do one quick announcement in Spanish, in case we have some Spanish speakers here that need a translation.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Brenda y yo estoy acá atrás con unas cosas disponibles si necesitan que los traduzca. Así que estoy acá atrás si necesitan ayuda.
Chief Rick Johnson with East Wenatchee Police Department. Started there about 2 years ago. Prior to that, I was with Chelan County for 5 years. And prior to that, I was with City of Wenatchee for about 14 years.
Hi there, I'm Officer Ivy Jacobson with East Wenatchee Police as well. I've been there just over a year in March. I'm the newly appointed school resource officer for Eastmont School District. And prior to that, I worked for Bothell Police Department for 4.5 years on the west side in King County. And I'm excited to be here helping our youth and inspiring them.
Hello, my name is Valentin Mendoza. I'm an employee at Children's Home Society.
Good evening. My name is Dalia Garcia. I am a probation counselor for Chelan County Juvenile, as well as a non-offender coordinator. And I'm happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Mireya Castillo, and I'm also a probation counselor for Chelan County Juvenile.
Hi, my name is Pedro Magaña, and I'm also a probation counselor and an intake officer for Chelan County Juvenile.
So we have a great panel for you tonight. But I'm so proud of the work that the community has done to bring us to this evening. Tonight is a community conversation on gang awareness and making sure that our community hears from experts in different areas and different fields to make sure that we're informing our community about the best ways to be proactive, to understand what's occurring within the valley. This is not a Wenatchee School District, Eastmont School District thing. This is an entire valley, an entire region issue that's impacting us, and why we felt like it was critically important to come together to have this type of conversation and to help inform our parents in our community on this. Our why for the Wenatchee School District: we promise to build a foundation of diversity, equity, and inclusion from which each student emerges future ready. Today's conversation is about gang awareness. Again, we're very upfront about what we're trying to have conversations about and bringing people to the table to understand what are the issues that are impacting our community. Oh, again here, after the presentation, we have, we'll go to this form if you link to it, and we'll be able to answer questions there as well. So we'll come back to that again later on. One of the things that makes this so unique are the number of community partners that have helped us. And it's a small percentage of people who are up here tonight, but it was a large group of individuals who we've been working with for close to 8 months now, to really understand from our perspective, the impact of gangs. You can see there from Cafe, Children's Home Society of Washington, Chelan County Juvenile, Confluence Health, East Wenatchee Police Department, Eastmont School District, North Central Education Service District 171, the Physician and Healthcare Consulting LLC, the Wenatchee Police Department, the Wenatchee School District, and the Wenatchee YMCA. The Wenatchee School District believes that we can do great things. We can do amazing things when we're partner with people in communities, in organizations. That's when the Wenatchee School District, the Eastmont School District, and every other school district does incredible things for students in our community, is when we partner and when we bring people together to really think through the bigger issues at play. Tonight, we're going to play a video. Val's in the room. He introduced himself. So we're going to start here, and I'll hand it over to Val on the video.
Hello, my name is Valentin Mendoza. I'm an employee at Children's Home Society in the city of Wenatchee, Washington. I'd like to talk about a social issue that is impacting our community and members that reside within those communities. Gang culture is impacting the city of Wenatchee, and we must do something about it. As a former gang member, I'd like to share my experiences and what I believe can be beneficial to bridge this gap. Growing up in a monolingual speaking home, my mom spent countless hours in the fields working to provide for a better life for me and my family. My mom did not realize that the lengthy hours away from the home would create a gap between her and her son, that her son would want to find connectivity somewhere else since it wasn't given in the home. So I resorted to hang around people that were in the same living situation as I was, and we resorted to gangs, and we resorted to coping in a negative manner like alcohol and drugs. I believe it's not how you start, it's how you finish that really determines a lot about a person. But I also believe that along the way, we must have people and resources to help us get to that destination. And how do we do that? We do that by planting seeds of change in people, by creating and giving resources to people that don't have resources and don't know what healthy attachments look like. I believe that if my mom was giving resources and giving education about what healthy attachments look like, I think it helped my mom pause and think how much this is impacting my child. No mother wants to see their children get killed, get shot, get incarcerated. This is not something that we glorify. This is the reality that some people live in the communities that they currently reside in. So it's on us, if we want to make our town better, to get in the nitty gritty, to go in there and exchange dialogue with people that don't identify like us. Because there's a negative stigma about gang culture. There's a negative narrative that comes with that as well. And it's on us to break that negative narrative. And it's on us to show love to people that seem loveless, to show compassion, to be present, and to most importantly, not judge because we don't identify or look the same as other people. I believe that we can find beauty in the most unlikeliest of places, like roses that grow from the concrete. In these communities that we look that can be deemed helpless or hopeless or a gang issue, a lot of these kids just need attachment. They need somebody that they'll play with them, connect with them, and to show them there's different ways of coping and that there is a better life. That how we start life is not a determining factor of how we end it. So I call to you to come and join me with Children's Home Society to help bridge this gap that our community faces. We cannot do this alone because I believe today might be better than yesterday, but not as good as tomorrow. Thank you. Hello, my name is
And just an incredible message from Valentin about the need for every human to be connected, to belong, to have others see value in who they are as a human. Val, thank you for that message. Again, our school resource officers in Wenatchee School District, we're exceptionally proud. And I'm exceptionally proud of boards, current boards and prior boards who knew the value of ensuring that our school district had school resource officers. We currently have 2 school resource officers, and they are such a value add to our school district, into our community. We have Officer Fuller and Officer Steele. Both are not available for us tonight, but do know that they do a tremendous job helping support our students in our community within our schools each and every day. With that, I'm going to hand it over to which group are we? Brian's going to take it. What do you want to do? Are you going to comfortable sitting, or are you going to take the?
I'll take the mic.
All right,
I'll take the mic. I'm gonna have a problem with that. First of all, thanks, Val, for doing that. I haven't met you before, and I really appreciate you doing what you did there. Yeah. A little bit about myself real quick, just to give you a little background. I've been in law enforcement for over 25 years. I started as a probation and parole officer with the Department of Corrections, supervising adult felons coming out of prison. And during that time, 20 plus years ago, the violence in Wenatchee was extreme. And I began to just learn about gangs, study gangs, and I ended up having a gang caseload where I only supervised felons coming out of prison. So I got my education from that, then became a police officer. As a police officer, I became a detective and in the gang unit, and responded to a variety of issues from graffiti to homicide. And during that time, as we're doing tonight, we engaged the community and our resources and came together as a town, because it can't be solved by the police. We can't arrest our way out of this problem. So we had all this connectivity, and we were able to solve a lot of those problems, not just with enforcement, but with education and just getting involved at this level and moving up. So I'm proud to be here. Thank you for having me and letting me speak, for sure. After I was in the gang unit, I then became a school resource officer. So I have a little flavor. I was a school resource officer for 2 years, and I was able to integrate again with all the resources that we have in this community, in our school and the school district, and the people that run the school district. And they've made fabulous changes, and they've grown. And now we're at a part in this community where we need to address this problem again and educate ourselves. So that's a little bit about me. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And hopefully you can engage me with some questions later.
Chief, would you just a quick intros for both of you, and then just about the gangs overall?
Sure. So I started my career right here in Wenatchee, and it was a long, long time ago. Went away for a little bit, worked for the state, and then my heart brought me back to Wenatchee. When I was a police officer here, I'll say it, over 30 years ago, I was in what at that time was called the street crime unit. And it was very similar in nature, started off as kind of what we are today with first our special services division that has a PROAC component to it. And then we transitioned to putting the gang enforcement into our drug task force. The reason for that is it's a kind of a force multiplier. As it's been said here a couple of times, we have a valley issue, not just a Wenatchee or an East Wenatchee or Kashmir or Chelan issue. It truly does encompass both counties and both cities for sure. So in that, we changed the focus. There are more people that are integrated within each law enforcement agency. It helps us dramatically with the ability to exchange intelligence at all levels. We pool our resources. We know that we have to do that as a government to be efficient. And our training here in the Valley is actually a conglomeration of staying on the same principles, from everything to how we drive our cars to how we practice proper principles of use of force. So out of that really did spring the concept of going to a drug task force model. We know the value of school resource officers. Time and time again, it is at interaction with kids at the schools that really matter. It may be as easy as a friendly hello in the morning, right on up to recognizing that kid that's having a difficult time and spending the time to just chat with that kid. So I'm very pleased and proud of our school resource officers. Sergeant Miller has a very talented crew that works for him and are very mission oriented. And quite frankly, they are doing the yeoman's work when it comes to gang enforcement efforts. There's more to it, as the sergeant alluded to. We can't do our jobs without the community. It simply cannot be done without solid parents standing up and taking interest in what their kids are doing at school and what they're doing outside of school. That is the major component to all this, is that relationship building within this valley, knowing what your resources are and being able to utilize those and have collaborative efforts towards the end goal of limiting the amount of gang influence that we have in our valley. For that, I'll turn it over to Chief Johnson.
I'll be really quick. Thanks for having me. Thanks for including us, Dr. Gordon. We're lucky to be here. Like Chief Crown said, it's going on both sides of the river. I touched on my background a little bit. I'll give you a little bit more. Just by coincidence, Sergeant Miller and I were in the police academy together a little over 21 years ago. I worked for the Toppenish Police Department down by Yakima when I went through the police academy. I did 3 years down there before coming up and working for Chief Robbins at Wenatchee PD. And then we both ended up in detectives at the same time and both ended up as PROAC gang detectives for almost 8 years together. And so we did work a lot of cases, everything from arson and homicide and graffiti. We're really proud of the clearance rate. He touched on it a little bit, but for a while we were running over a 70% arrest rate on graffiti, which is unheard of, but we were really attributing it to the work we put in to intelligence and working criminal informants and that aspect. So I feel like as a police chief, I probably have a unique background where I did work gangs for a long time, and it just happens to be the problem we're in now. We did see a big lull in it. I think it was in about 2012, we had our first year ever in Wenatchee where we went 1 full year without a gang on gang assault. And that was due to a whole lot of work put in by some federal agencies, us, some partnerships within the community. We had a comprehensive gang strategy that was at Wenatchee PD that involved the school district and getting SROs back. So fast forward to now to East Wenatchee and Eastmont School District. We're coming on off of a 10-year spell with no school resources officers in our schools. And what Officer Jacobson is experiencing now is what I would say what happens when there isn't police involved in your schools and we have gangs, and we had gotten lax on some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. And so we're going to dig our way out of it. We didn't get into the situation we're in as a community right now overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. But it's going to take a partnership more so than it did in the past, because I would say our comprehensive gang strategy was heavy on enforcement, heavy on police side. That does not appear to be socially acceptable anymore. So we're going to try some different strategies, and I'm sure some of those will work and some won't. We had success and failures in the past, and we will again, but we're excited to be here. I'm confident that we will get through this as a community, but I think there will be some painful times coming up, and we've seen that just in the short last 18 months at East Wenatchee involving juveniles. We've had robberies, some significant assaults, juveniles being shot, juveniles shooting people, all things that we had not seen in our community probably in the previous 10 years. And it's kind of back right now. A lot of the major cities will tell you that gang crime is cyclical. If you do not pay attention to it and do not give it constant attention, it does come back. And part of that comprehensive gang strategy that we had was a PROAC unit that didn't exist before. At one time, we had 6 detectives working in this PROAC unit, and due to budget constraints and a whole lot of other things, that unit eventually went to 0 in Wenatchee. And now we're back, and we're partnered with the drug task force, and we'll talk about that. But it just is an issue that needs constant attention. And I'll turn it over to Ivy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ivy Jacobson. I'm thankful to be here, to be working with all of you. like my bosses were saying. This is a collaborative effort. We are in this together, parents, teachers, administrators at schools, families. We need your help in how we can better help these kids and steer them in the right direction. Some steps that I've been taking directly at the school is I've been communicating with Officer Steele and Officer Fuller on what they're seeing and observing, and that communication is vital for us to both be successful on both sides of the river. Also working with Chelan County Juvenile Detention and resources that they have in-house, what they're doing, how they're mentoring the kiddos that are unfortunately arrested and taken there. And those conversations that they're having at detention, and then working with our prosecutors on our at-risk youth program and what we can do to steer them proactively rather than reactively in this last month. It's going to take all of us, it's going to take a village to address it and work together. I am open to questions and any ideas anyone may have. So thank you for having me.
Thank you all. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty, but I want to highlight one thing. So when we pulled together our community conversation around gangs, it is unusual. So I've been doing this kind of role for a number of years to have two chief of police who were attending each of the meetings, who were present, who were, when I reached out on the phone and said, hey, we're struggling with this, help me. These two chiefs and their teams were right there. This is not just here tonight for show. I will tell you, they've been right along our side, trying to help us think this thing through. So I just want to recognize, again, not too often do chief of police come out for this type of event, and more importantly, who literally were alongside us. We were meeting every 2 weeks. And they made sure that their time, they knew how valuable this was. So I just wanted to recognize that. We're going to now kind of get into the nuts and bolts of this. It's going to be handed over to you. You can sit or stay.
I can't sit. I'll go crazy. Yeah. Okay, like you said, let's get into the nitty gritty here. Some quick points. What is a gang? And it can be much broader than this, but just for what we have here tonight is 3 or more members, okay? Number 1. Number 2, it's an ongoing group, and that ongoing group grows and it shrinks. We can talk about, and I won't get too far in the weeds, but there's gang members and then there's gang associates too. So membership is typically getting involved by getting jumped into the gang. They share common characteristics. Common characteristics typically is they adopt a color and they adopt symbols, and we'll talk more about that. Another common one typically is race. That can be mixed though, depending on where you're at and different cities, etc. And one of the primary goals of being in a gang is to commit crime on behalf of the gang. If they're in it and they're jumped in, one of the goals of the gang is to get respect. And in order to get respect in the gang life is typically through violence. And then along with that, the primary goal includes crime. Well, a lot of that is money. So a lot of that comes from illegal sources, typically drug sales and property crime. So we'll get into a little bit of more of that, but any questions right off the bat of the bare basics of what is a gang? Good here? Okay. Keep rolling it. Okay. Well, why join? Lots of different reasons. Some of them were already brought up. Thank you, Val, for telling your story. Number 1 is typically to belong. There may be a lot going on in that child's life that they just aren't connecting. They might have a learning disability. Whatever that reason may be, is they want that feeling of belonging. We all do. We like a tribe. We want people to be around us and to support us. And whether that comes from positive feedback or negative feedback, getting that involved with a gang is to be a member, to be part of a team. A lot of it excitement. Is committing crime. It's exciting. It's exciting to run from the cops. It's exciting to earn money illegally. A lot of times, well, I already talked about drugs, but drugs and alcohol to get high. So it's exciting to get drunk. It's exciting to meet girls, those kind of things. But they're adding on this negative connectivity to it. And that's where it just sprawls and sprawls and sprawls, especially when you involve the violence. Getting respect, I touched on that already. That's typically through violence, but a lot of it is attributed to by getting respect. I'm going to wear this type of dress. I'm going to stand a certain way. I'm going to walk a certain walk and talk a certain talk. And if you don't agree with me, well, there might be trouble for you. And I'm talking about a serious gang member, but it starts low and it starts at, we're seeing it in middle school levels of dressing that certain way. And then they start drawing on their notebooks or in their wall or on their posters. And sometimes they don't even know what they're doing, but it's growing and growing and growing. They don't know the big meaning behind it, but they're all danger signs. Protection, depending on where they're growing up and where they're living, they just being tired of getting bullied. It could be a situation at school, could be a situation in the neighborhood. And they're like, well, these guys are tough. This looks kind of exciting. If I step over here, maybe they'll help me out with whatever problem I'm having. Maybe my dad, maybe a brother, an uncle, a bully at school, etc. I talked about money. Oftentimes, people who join a gang are often in the poverty level. And quick buck, there's drugs available. And being part of the drug task force, there's plenty of it to go around. And we're seeing it at a younger and younger level, not only the consumption, but dealing narcotics. So, anything out on that? Good. Okay, I'm gonna go through a list. I'm not gonna read it all, and I'll show some examples here later, but clothing and identifiers. I talked about adopting things. And number one would be a color, and down below, it's for our area, it's going to be red and blue, okay? And oftentimes you'll see it from head to toe if it's not enforced. Shirt are typically oversized, sport teams often included. Pants, typically way oversized, or kind of a short that goes to the knee with white socks being pulled up to the knees. Again, with pants, things that we've seen way oversized pants, and then they get nailed into the heel so they don't drag. Bandanas, that's a big one. And then tattoos. Now, I want to be really, really clear. Now, just because someone has sports clothing on and they have baggy clothing on, that doesn't mean they're a gang member. Okay, we have to go back to what are they doing and why be in a gang. And part of being in a gang most often is committing crime. So one, it's not illegal to be a gang member. And two, just because someone looks like that doesn't mean that I need to jump out and say, hey, why are you in a gang? That would be ridiculous because maybe they just really like a certain team. So it has to do with the actions. What are their actions in school? What are their actions in the community? Okay, be really clear on that. Behaviors. This can really be with drug abuse as well, too. So either one, if we're just learning here. Withdrawing from friends and family. So they were really into soccer. Suddenly ain't going to soccer no more. Big indicator, what's going on? Why are you not hanging out with your best friend anymore? Why are you hanging out with these kids that I don't even know? I haven't even heard of them. Missing school, suddenly doing bad in school. Those are definitely times to pull your son or daughter aside and say, what's going on? Meeting with teachers, meeting with the counselors. What's going on here? Is there another reason that I'm just not finding? Staying out late without any reason or just disappearing, not answering their phone, those kind of things. Once again, I was a teenager. I did a lot of these things too, but they were just little blips in the radar. I'm talking about a sudden change. Like I stayed out all night. My dad got extremely mad. Where were you? Well, I was with my cousin. That was one night though, out of many, many years. So I'm talking a sudden sway of behavior. Unusual interest in the colors red and blue. Once again, that's in our valley, and those are the gangs that are represented in our valley. Gang type drawings and symbols, practicing hand signals in the mirror, not like a TikTok dance, but like they're representing those gang symbols, which is a 1 or a 3. I'm not going to do them here, but they spend a lot of time practicing graffiti and doing these hand signs and standing certain ways to get that right and to get more respect from within the gang. Obviously, if you went into your son or daughter's room and there's suddenly $1,000, that's a problem, right? And if you combine it with this other stuff, they may very well be involved in the sale of, it doesn't even have to be illegal drugs. It could be cigarettes or vapes. Those are big issues that we've encountered. They'll steal them and then sell them at school or sell them in their neighborhoods. Lastly is fighting and drug use. You know, just going off the handle, anger and having violence within the school, big problems. Reach out. You're not in this alone. You have plenty of resources, whether it's us, the school, counselors, the other agencies represented here. You don't have to walk down that sidewalk alone. So pay attention and then reach out. Talked about graffiti. This more often than not starts within their bedroom and in their schoolwork and on their backpacks. So the teachers have been educated, but seeing these kind of symbols on their personal effects, definitely pull them aside and reach out for help if you can't handle this. It starts in the bedroom, goes out, typically not very far from the house. And it goes maybe a block or 2 away, and they'll put it up on a fence or a garage or a wall. Then once they start getting better at it, they can get into a car, roam the community, and then hit certain areas. Just because you see this on a garage on a certain street doesn't necessarily mean that's a gang house. Typically, that's not the case. It's just they put it up there. It's an advertisement. It's just a billboard for them to get their gang out and to intimidate people that are against them. Okay. Some of the things you'll see is the number 13 here and 14. 14 is associated with red, 13 with blue. And what I'm hearing from the school district is it's pretty prevalent within the schools, especially the restrooms. But more often than not, you'll see that within your own house, and it's time to reach out and start having some hard talks, for sure. Anything to add there? Okay. Oh, all these were all these were within the school districts. So some of the symbols there on the far left, X3 is for 13. NK would be Norteño Killer, and some of the other symbols there. ES is East Side. They have their own language, and it means a lot to them. It starts out kind of fun and curious, but as they progress and as they get older, it means everything to them. It means sometimes that stuff means more than their mom and dad, depending on what level they're in and how old they are. Is this me? Okay. I was hoping I talked about this a little already, but I'll talk to your kids, have frequent conversations. I've learned, I've made a lot of mistakes with my own kids, and the number one thing is be present. Like when you say, how's it going? Like really ask, how's it going? And sit down with them and get into, oh, it's okay. How was your day? Okay. But really take that moment. Hey, let's go for a walk. Let's sit down, have a snack. Like what happened today? What was the best thing? What was the worst? Those kind of things. Talk about peer pressure. It's always there. I fell into it a few times. I've made my mistakes. But definitely talk about, hey, what are your friends doing? Have you seen drugs in the school? Did you see a fight recently? Those kind of questions. I'm a fan of going through their phones. Now, they don't like it, but going through their phones, you can gain a lot of insight on what's going on in your child's life. Social media is huge. And to my surprise, he's like, yeah, I did see, I got a video of a fight just outside the school the other day, and it was a big fight and it was getting passed around. Highly encourage that. Educate your kids about the dangers of it. Being in a gang has its highs and lows. The longer it goes on, more likely they're going to be in jail, or they're going to get seriously hurt or hurt somebody else. And that's hard for any parent. Any one of those things would be horrible for a parent. Definitely have a no tolerance attitude of the clothing and the symbols that you have observed here today. They're going to tell you, this video that I saw, or I like this certain rapper. It goes beyond that when they start donning the clothes and start doing the graffiti within their own room. That's the time to reach out. And like many people have said, it takes a village. Talk to grandparents, talk to brothers, sisters, get to the school. Hey, I found this in my kid's room. Talk to the counselor. Is there any other things that I'm not seeing? It goes not just with gangs, but if there's a certain group that they're within, don't just accept that I'm just hanging out with them. Really research. Did they really go to Jimmy's house or not? Just bare basics of parenting, but just get involved and talk to them about it. Just tell them there is gangs here. Just be upfront about it. Have you noticed that? And what are the dangers of it? Arrested, assaulted, drugs, overdoses, those kind of things. Be frank. I tried not being frank with my kids. It did not go well, and it's just easier to just put it out there. Once again, provide rules and structure. And sometimes you just have to take a hard line. And if it's always yes, well, you're going to have some problems for sure. So have your rules and structure, follow up, look into their phones. The best thing, like I said, is be present. Be present when you have, as the older they get, you get less time. So being present and getting involved and just say, hey, father-daughter date, father-son, take a few moments and find out what's really going on in their life, because the teens, their life speeds up and you see less and less of them. So taking those moments and really finding out how they're doing and what they're doing. Okay. I'm just going to read this verbatim here because it's perfect for me. We need to give the kids what they are seeking from gang life: love, respect, activities, praise, and a sense of belonging. And like I said, you don't have to just rely on you. There's lots of people here to help. Yeah.
Paul, could I add a
I
couple
was
things
just going to
really
hand back over to this table because I know Officer Jacobson also was going to.
Yeah, we're both chomping at the bit here a little bit. Just some of the, yeah, I think we're on here. Okay. A couple of things that we're seeing that are new from when Brian and I worked gangs 12 years ago or whatever. The gangs or the youth that are getting involved in some fairly significant activity, gang behaviors, are much younger than they were before. I think that's really important to take note of. And we were on a conference call last week or so, and the Moses Lake chief was talking, and I was pretty surprised to hear him say that exact thing, that their gang activity is in a younger group of kids than they've ever seen before in Moses Lake. And we are seeing 11, 12, and 13 displaying gang behavior, gang clothing, and then some fairly significant crimes like I talked about. It would have been highly unusual for Brian and I to investigate a gang-related robbery that involved juveniles. And that's what we're seeing now from time to time. And a lot of times the other victims are gang members. They're robbing the other gang to punk them out, make them look bad in a public setting. But we also recently had a case that we partnered with Chelan County on that was one of our local gun shops broken into by the front door being shot open, 21 guns being stolen to include 9 AR-15s, and the 2 suspects were Eastmont students, Eastmont student juvenile gang members, who now we are recovering those guns one at a time off of Eastmont students. So they stole 21 guns and then distributed them out. That is something we didn't deal with before. So that is new to our valley. And then the second piece that I think is new, Brian touched on it a little bit with graffiti. We didn't see territory as much in the past before, where a certain gang was claiming a certain park in Wenatchee or East Wenatchee. And we are seeing that now, that one gang will say, Matt Howe Park, that's our park. And you'll see a really specific graffiti in that park and around that park, or Eastmont Park, that's our park. And we didn't deal with that before. We could have gang members from rival gangs living next door to each other and leaving each other alone for the most part. But that is not something that's going on right now. We have Norteño gang members walking one route home from the junior high, and we have Sereno gang members walking another route home when they're both going to the same neighborhood, but they won't walk the same side of the street or the same direction for at least the first part of the walk. That's new to us. So that's all something that we're dealing with. I would say the gang members are no more serious of a gang member than they were before. A lot of them are just displaying the behavior and trying to figure out where they fit in, but we weren't seeing it at 12, 13, and 14 before. In East Wenatchee, we're seeing a much more significant gang presence in our junior high and middle school than we are at the high school right now. With all of those kids obviously are on their way to the high school, but that is something new for us. And I just think something we need to be cognizant of as a community, that, okay, they're getting involved younger. Why is that? And we've talked a lot about our guesses at these reasons. And last, I'll just finish with, when we were meeting with the group, the smaller group that Dr. Gordon organized, we had a gang interventionist from the Lower Valley come in, a guy named Eric Hinojosa from the Toppenish School District. And I remember Dr. Gordon asked him, he's a former gang member who's now graduation specialist for their school district. And he said, what was missing for you as a youth gang member in the Lower Valley of Yakima? What was missing for you? And I was surprised at his answer. His answer, I don't know if you remember, Dr. Gordon, but it was, nobody came and checked on me. When I didn't show up for school, nobody came and found me. Nobody wondered where I was. That gang members were written off at the time when he was a fringe gang member, and he just didn't think anybody cared. The only place he found belonging and caring was in that gang culture. When he went to jail, he quickly found out it went away, that nobody cared about him in there. But that was his perception as a youth gang member, was, man, I can miss school all day long and nobody comes out here to find me. But who comes to find me? These guys that I call my friends. They're the ones who come check on me and that. And so that was a piece that we discovered. One of the things they did down there was their school resource officers follow the students from elementary to middle school to high school, so that they build the relationship young and work their way through. There are some logistical problems with that for an area our size. They're much smaller. But my brother-in-law is a principal at the Toppenish Middle School, and he says that his SRO has an incredible relationship with those middle school kids because he's got started with them at the kindergarten level. And it really is all about relationships when it comes from a police standpoint. And then the last piece that we got out of that small group setting was the messaging, who the messenger is in a lot of these. With families that have a youth that's in a at-risk situation, sometimes the last person they want to see standing on their porch is a police officer, right? They want someone who they identify with from their community or shares some shared past experience, like maybe Val saying, hey, we've got a problem. We need to get your kid back on track. That message isn't delivered from somebody that looks like myself or Sergeant Miller saying you have a problem. They don't want to see us as there's embarrassment with their neighbors. They don't think that we know where they come from, and they're right. We don't have the same backgrounds as them. But all these things, I think as we come up with this new strategy and we're looking for partners in our community like Val, will be a new approach for us. And I think we'll see success with it. But I just think we're looking at, my point is a new generation of gang members that aren't the same as the ones that we dealt with 10 and 12 years ago. So we're going to need some new approaches.
So I've been spending most of my time at Eastmont Junior High. My presence there is so crucial. I'm nervous leaving because they need to know that I'm always there. And you miss lunch. If I miss a lunch, I kick myself in the butt for it. because building that relationship is just so vital and crucial right now. I'm doing everything that I possibly can. They do know that if there is a fight at the school and someone is assaulted, they're getting arrested, because they need to understand that there's repercussions to their actions. These fights, in the school, when they occur, students will group around and they start to pull out their cell phones and record in a way that's encouraging the fight to continue. And then that fight gets shared among the school, which is unfortunate because they think that this behavior is okay and that it's that the violence is okay, and it's not. And so right now, just trying to coach them, mentor them, counsel them with the school administration's assistance, reminding them that this is not okay, because I'm trying to prevent the next student from possibly bringing a weapon or something to further defend themselves in a fight altercation in the school, in the hallway. Presence is key right now, and it's so vital. Going back and forth, sharing my time amongst the junior high in Sterling. Today particularly, there's been some groupings amongst the girls, the female students, who they also have their own groups, and there are connections with also the boy gangs. And so the girls will also instigate fights, and they'll have a primary aggressor who particularly will fight. And this is a female who particularly will go hands-on with another girl, another female student. And so they'll have the person who wants to have the female student attacked. They'll coerce them to, for example, the park near the school, and that student will go out there, and then the primary aggressor, the girl that is willing to fight, will attack this victim student for the other female gang affiliated student. And that's what I was dealing with today, particularly at the high school. And they were in the Eastmont Park, which has been claimed, I believe, Norteño turf. And they go back and forth where they want to claim turf, where they're going to fight. And it's a back and forth battle. One day they're going after the Blues, and then the next day they're going after the Reds. And so it's me constantly learning and listening to their hallway talk, and finding out what's going to happen next. So I'm proactive in preventing it. And it's scary. I'm running around every day, but it's worth it, because we are all showing up for these kids, family, parents, teachers. These teachers every day, they're talking with me. Hey, I'm hearing this. Just want to let you know, FYI. Hey, I had a parent call me and said something about this because they saw this part of a text message with their kiddo. We just want to let you know, because the parent didn't want to talk to me, but they let the teacher know. So just little bits and pieces of information come through. The more that we can observe, hear, and just talk with the kiddos, make that connection, stop on the sidewalk, say hello to them. Where are you heading to? What sports are you playing in? It helps so much. The junior high students, when they're after school, when they're going their one way across the street, and the Blues are going up the hill and the Reds are going in the lower portion of Sterling Middle School, particularly. We've set up a weight room for them at the high school. So there's a group of kids who are really trying to get out of this. They tell us they want out of this gang activity. They don't want to be part of it because they know that violence is only going to become of it, and they don't want to be a part of it because they want to focus on their school, their academics, and being there for their younger siblings. And they know that there's repercussions of it. So we have set up the weight room for them to go to, and they're starting to look forward to going to the weight room, lifting weights, getting in shape. And so now it's become a cool thing for these kiddos, because they're getting strong. And so now they're talking to their other friends who may be in the fringes of these groups. And so it's actually pulling them to go to the weight room with the kids who are really desperately trying to get out of it. And it's these just baby steps. It's starting to work, and I believe in it. We just got to keep devoting time patience, and keep talking with them one day at a time and showing up for them every day. Showing up for them every day as a parent, teacher, me being present there, and all our resources here in the Valley connecting and communicating. So.
Yeah, no, your perspective within the gangs.
How much time
within-
do I have?
Yeah, from the parent perspective as well, too.
Okay.
That piece.
So first and foremost, I want to say I am a parent before anything. I have a 13-year-old, and the culture in schools is very different than what it was for my other two who are now adults. It was very different. And I'm concerned. I'm really concerned. These gangs want to increase in numbers. They are just vicious. And I'm very concerned for my son. I consider him to be at risk. He's 13. And so I am trying my best to be as involved as I can. We talk about it every single day, asking questions. He has two parents who are very involved. He's in sports, but I'm still concerned. I feel like it's so much is going on, it's not enough. And so we who do have this knowledge and experience need to help other parents and do the best that we can. Keep talking about it, having conversations, attending these meetings, being involved with our children and their friends as well, because some children don't have a two-parent home. Some children have a one-parent home who is not even present because of work or for other reasons. And so I'm very concerned, and I'm trying my best, as I said, to involve myself. So as far as my work and what I do for Chelan County Juvenile Center, as I mentioned, I'm a probation counselor. Right now, primarily, my caseload is non-offender. And so that involves at-risk youth, CHINS, which is child in need of services, emancipation, truancy, and then of course we do marriage waivers as well. But regarding at-risk youth, they're all civil petitions, and parents have that option in the state of Washington to seek assistance from the juvenile court through that civil petition at-risk youth. The result is a court order, which will contain court-ordered conditions that are very similar to criminal matters. The parent basically it's parent-driven, and when their youth is in non-compliance, they can return to court and ask for the court to give them a sanction or a punishment to hold them accountable. Parents can also be ordered to do things such as a parenting class. Maybe they have their own drug or alcohol issues or their own mental health issues. They can also be ordered to do things. And when they're not in compliance, their youth can take them to court and ask the court to give them a sanction. Regarding, and so as far as the at-risk youth, I have a lot of parents that are referred to me. I am really, really busy. They're referred to me from the schools, from law enforcement, various community agencies, and I meet with everybody. Today, I met with a parent who has a 6-year-old that is beating up kids in the bathroom in the school. We wouldn't be able to work with the child because he's 6, and typically we start with age 12. But I still met with them and I said, let me see what resources I can refer you to, what's going on, what have you tried, what are you willing to do? So I will always meet with everyone. My door is open. I meet with people via an appointment or as a walk-in. And I try my best to, number one, equip them, to encourage them to be their child's advocate because they are the number one advocate, and to not stop until they get the help that their child needs. And so I have a lot of discussions with parents, help educate them about what's going on in our community. And it's never surprising that so many parents have no idea what's going on. And so again, I take advantage of my position to say, it's okay. I get it. You're busy, you're in crisis, you're overwhelmed, you don't know where to go, what to do. A lot of parents come in and for the first time, I do a lot of listening, to be honest. For the first time, they feel like they just can vent and they talk about everything that they've been experiencing. Again, they're in crisis. And when a parent is in crisis or a family is in crisis, they're not able to think clearly. clearly. They're not able to put the puzzle together, to know where to go, where to ask questions. And so I help them with that as much as I can. And my goal is to keep them out of court. So just because they meet with me doesn't mean that they're going to file a legal action and take their child to court. That doesn't feel good. And to be honest, the court doesn't want families taking each other to court. So my goal is to keep them out of court and for them to exhaust the resources in the community, which is really required by law that they do that, unless there is a real, a risk to the youth or others, or the youth is not willing to do anything, to not participate in services. Regarding child in need of services, that is another civil petition that a parent can file or a youth. It works very similar to an at-risk youth petition. The biggest difference is whomever the petitioner is, they are requesting that the child be removed from the home for a short period or up to 9 months or a year. This petition's purpose is not to separate families. The purpose is that both the youth and the parent work on the issues that are causing the conflict, that are making the home environment unhealthy, whatever that may be. So both, again, the youth and the parent can be court ordered to engage in services within the community. The court orders those services such as individual counseling, family counseling, substance use disorder treatment, and they choose where to go. The court just orders it, and it's up to them to comply with that. Regarding emancipation, any youth who is 16 or 17 can petition the court to be emancipated, legally free from their parent. A lot of kids come in and say, I want to be emancipated. And I meet with them. I say, okay, have a seat. First of all, where do you work? What bills do you pay? And it's always the same. Well, I plan to, or I'm going to, and I say, okay, that's fine. You're here, and good job for advocating for yourself. And so even those youth, I will give them a list of things to work on. It is not easy to get emancipated, and for good reason. For good reason. A lot of youth should not be emancipated from their parents. And so I will assist them regardless of whomever is referred to me, whether it's a parent or youth, regardless of whom referred them to me. I always sit back and ask a lot of questions, and I take my time, because many times it's not an at-risk youth situation or an emancipation situation. Sometimes it's a CPS situation, and I'm a mandated reporter of child abuse. And so I have to kind of, with an investigative lens, sit back and figure out what is going on. There are a lot of things that are not going well, but what is it that they need, and how can I help them, or whom can I send them to help them with that? And then truancy. So with truancy, I don't have, a lot of times parents will call very upset because a truancy petition has been filed against their student. I do my best in giving them just general information as far as what the law says, just general truancy information. Most of the time I will refer them back to the school, because I have no idea what interventions, what work has been done within the school, which the law requires that a lot be done before a truancy petition be filed. And that is another civil matter. We do hold a truancy engagement board that is required by law. So with any truancy petition, the student has to meet with the community engagement board first. And then the hope is that they will sign a contract agreeing to attend school and maybe do some other services that are recommended by the board. If they continue to have unexcused absences, then the next step is court. And so with the board, Val's on the board. Through Children's Home Society, we have other staff such as from YMCA and so on. And we do our best to try to end it there and help them with what we can.
So much. Appreciate it. All right.
Okay, you might have heard a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago now, a little a dust up in social media about prohibited items on students' clothing in both school districts. That was very public. It was not something that we have have not had in our policies. We've had these policies for quite a while. What we wanted to do was bring forward again some of the prohibited dress and pay attention to it again and make sure we're enforcing it in a K-12 system on both sides of the river. So each school district has a list of prohibited things that we do not want to see on our students. And that isn't a very long list. And then we have a longer list, as Brian talked about earlier, of things that might represent, if they go with the behavior, some type of activity. And in our district, we have behavior and support plans for those students who might be exhibiting behaviors and the dress to go with those behaviors. And it's not very many, but we try to support those students and give them some structure in the school day to limit those types of dress and type of behaviors. So that is what that was a few weeks ago. It was really a reintroduction of policies we had in place in the school districts to make sure parents really were aware, they understood. And it's about all parents because we also want to protect all students if they have no affiliation whatsoever. So we want to protect those students who might not have any awareness that wearing certain clothing might catch a sideways glance from somebody or make someone think they have an affiliation. But again, Brian pointed this out very, very clearly. It's about the behaviors that go with that dress. That dress is not an indicator. That dress is just a potentially an indicator if the behaviors align with it. And our job is to really be proactive and build the relationship. So but we do have some prohibited items. I'm not going to open that up. We will make a link at the end so you can know where that is. Both school districts have those posted on our websites. So you can look at those and be familiar with what things are strictly prohibited versus which things we're looking at behaviors that might align with certain dress in the school district.
Thank you. Ron, can you go back to slide 15 just for a second? And I just want to say, wow. This has been a great presentation. I could listen to law enforcement for another couple hours, just really informative. And tonight is about us learning together and growing as a community. So I'm just really pumped that everybody's here and excited, but I really wanted to go back to this message here. We need to give kids what they're seeking from gang life. And I really just want to honor and lift up Val for his vulnerability and sharing with us. We all know and understand that the schoolhouse is not just about academics. It is about everything that we can do for our students. And it's about community involvement. It's about our partnership here. But all of these things are so important for our students to learn and know and feel every single day when they walk in that building. So yeah, we're going to love our kids and we're going to be as supportive as we can. And we're going to help them know what it feels like to be loved and supported. We're going to respect them in everything that they do and show them ways to respect each other as well. The activities that we provide are super vital and very important, and we want to make sure they're activities that the students want to participate in, will participate in, and are supervised by caring and compassionate adults. We want to praise them. That's one of our behavior systems in our school buildings, positive behavioral interventions and supports, so PBIS. So we give a lot of praise. We would love to spend more time praising students that are doing the right thing than being punitive with students that are not doing what the expectation is. So flipping the script and spending more time there. And then the sense of belonging. Students need to feel connected. We want them to feel that belonging. And so that's super important. I just wanted to go back to that slide and share that that is what we are about in our school district. And that is the work that we're working on together. So then we can bounce to the slide I was supposed to talk about. That's this one. We have created some documents for you, and hopefully you were able to pick them up in the back of the room. The first one, and if you didn't get a handout because we have such a great turnout, this is awesome. It's a good problem to have. This slide deck will be posted toward the end of the week with this recording that you're part of, and the handouts will be linked on there as well. So don't feel like you missed anything. You can get those, and you may be able to do it without having to take any paper home. So that's always nice too. But the first document that we have is Wenatchee School District supports for students associated with gangs. And that's really not the best title. It should just be Wenatchee School District supports for students. This is for every student, no matter who they are and what they bring to the table. But it is just a list of the structures and personnel that we have in place in the school district, in the buildings. So there's building administrators that are listed there. There's family advocates listed there. We have counselors, graduation specialists, attendance advocates, student support specialists. We have social workers at our high school. So just a list so that you as parents know who you can contact when you need support in the building, especially if that's a new thing for you. Okay. And the next document we have is kind of a question and answer document. And this was something that was compiled out of the work that Dr. Gordon did with our community. So we have a lot of players that contributed to this work here. In fact, what we found is it was a lot easier to come up with questions, more so than it was to come up with really good, solid answers. And so this is a collaborative effort. This is the work of a team coming together. But you have that, and it's sectioned into different areas. So the first area is my child or other young people I care about are not in a gang, but I want to learn about the risks and the science. And that's probably why a lot of you are here tonight. So hopefully some of these questions can be answered for you this evening that way. But also we'll be moving into the Q&A session in just a second. The other section, my child or other young people I care about might be on the path to gang behaviors, and I want to learn more details about that. So that's another piece there. Then the final section is my child has other behavior issues. How do we get help? So those are all there for you and resources for you to have and take home, share with your family, and have those conversations. All right. The excitement has come to an end. Just kidding. We would really want to thank everybody for attending, and we want to just thank you for being committed to your community, being committed to your schools, and being committed to partnerships to help make us all the best versions of ourselves. And that's why we're here. We do have, as Ron and Paul mentioned earlier, we do have a way for you to submit questions later. And for those of you that are watching this presentation recorded, those links should be live in the slide deck so that you can send us those questions and we can create a better version of our frequently asked questions, because that's what we want to do. Through this work, we want to be better at what we're doing as a community. And so what we'll do now is we will stop the recording for the streaming, and then I'm going to pass the mic to Diana Haglin, who is amazing and going to float through the building here and get your questions. And we'll do a little Q&A with our panel of experts, our guests here as well, and then Ron and Dr. Gordon as well. So thank you.
And real quick, while we're making the transition, we will have all these documents posted on our website.